Seriously.
All right, so we're live. I'll just make an intro and then we can kind of go into the conversation if you want. Okay, so you are listening to the Liberty Talks podcast with Michael Anderson. Today we have special guest Nicholas Veser. Hey Nick, how are you doing?
Doing well, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing since the this election season? I don't know what you were doing exactly. I know you were with Young Americans for Liberty recording some stuff. So how did all that stuff go?
Yeah, man, we were up in New Hampshire, 37 big victories for Young Americans for Liberty, which is awesome. Got a bunch of Liberty warriors elected to state reps through the Operation Win at the Door program. So we were up in New Hampshire live streaming election coverage with Cliff Maloney and the entire team in Young Americans for Liberty. It was awesome, man. It was awesome.
Fantastic. Yeah, obviously I used to work with Young Americans for Liberty, so I know they've been doing some awesome things, and just wanted to hear a little bit about it. So I want to start off this interview asking you how exactly you became a libertarian.
Well, it's a pretty crazy story. You know, a lot of people come to the Liberty through literature and ideas, philosophy. I, about 4 years ago, was sued by the state of Florida for a company that I owned. Got into the industry, didn't even really want to be in the industry, but just got into it and tried to ran the business in a very tough industry, but ran the business by using an outside company to do the marketing, and they ended up suing me for $10 million, and it was all for what the other company was doing. So it was absolutely crazy, and it really rocked my worldview. I couldn't figure out, it messed me up. So I tried to figure out how government can do this, how they can just destroy lives with no recourse, unless you're worth tens of millions of dollars. And I learned very valuable lessons. And in the environment that we live in right now, you can't fight the government because they always win. You hear about the few circumstances where the little man wins, but it's so rare, it's so seldom. And it made me realize just how screwed up the system is and how much power they've acquired. And I had to do something about it. So my wife and I started Liberty Link Media Group, which is a production company to put a professional face to the Liberty movement and to kind of skip past so many of the things that I feel have really taken the Liberty movement not down, but held us stagnant, while socialism has gained so much popularity. And I think that's because unfortunately, they've rebranded socialism. The authoritarians have rebranded socialism so well, and we continue to, use the same lines, the same nonsense, the same, belittling people for not being smart enough, for not being libertarian enough, and just echo chamber nonsense all the time. And as I've gotten to know a lot of people in the movement, I understand why, because it's just, unfortunately, that seems to be a common quality, is this hyper focus on the issues or what's wrong with government without any real solution. And on top of it, this inability, Austin Peterson says it really well, this lack of empathy that exists. And it just, unfortunately, I think is hurting us in so many ways. And the socialists, hey, free stuff, social, being social, being cool, helping each other, charity, they rebrand, all the stuff that we all know socialism is not. Socialism, which inevitably leads to communism, was responsible for 100 million deaths in the 20th century. We know that, but they do a great job with their branding, and we need to do better,
No, you're totally right. I mean, I didn't want to get this deep into the libertarian stuff right off the bat, but I mean, since bringing it up, I mean, it was. I think you're totally right. I think a big difference between a lot of like the hardcore philosophical libertarians or ANCAPs is that they're focusing on the movement and the message rather than a political movement, right? Like I feel like if you're going to be a part of the LP, or a lot of people think being a part of the Republican Party or being independent is better if you're going to run politically, right? If you're trying to get something done politically, maybe some people think the Libertarian Party is not the best outlet, or that like ANCAPs and hardcore libertarians have a problem getting things done because of their lack of empathy and their messaging. I actually totally agree, and I think that we have to get past.
Let me be clear. Let me be clear about it. It's not just political parties, because I see Liberty Republicans struggle in the same way. One of the best messengers for the principles of liberty, in my opinion, is Nick Freitas in Virginia. And unfortunately, it's just the authoritarians have such a lock on the voting public. Unfortunately, they've gotten to the point where Corey Stewart can beat Nick Freitas in the primary. That's crazy. And it's just because you've got these two factions. You've got the MAGA crew, which Stewart was part of, and then you've got the socialists, and the people who are freedom-minded, the people who truly understand the principles of liberty. Unfortunately, we're losing the battle of ideas right now.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And what do you think is the solution to that?
I say it all the time, and people call me biased, people call me, but there's a reason that I took my talents and my 15 years of production knowledge and put it into the liberty movement. Not because I was looking for a new market or a new place to place my talents. It was because I truly understand and believe in the principles of liberty because of a personal experience, and I feel extremely passionate about putting as much of a professional face to that brand as possible. And unless we can do that, unless we can increase our donor base by getting people to understand that there's an actual path to victory, unless we can deliver our message in a way that 2018 can appreciate and doesn't just turn their back on and call us selfish, crazy people. That's what we need to do, and that's through the power of media. Paid media leads to earned media, and that is where, that's where they're making their impact. That's where the socialists are making their impact, is through the media. Take over pop culture, and we can get it back.
My friend Davey Wright tells me all the time that one of the biggest quotes that he loved by Ron Paul was that he said, if you want to change the culture, you have to have music and young people. And I think that really speaks to what you're saying, is we have to affect the culture rather than just trying to say, okay, look, we have the right economic arguments and it works out on paper and we're right,
Yeah, but Cortez can go out and say that the reason that unemployment is so low is because people are working 2 jobs 60 or 70 hours a week, and make absolutely no sense. Or say that environmental jobs are path to social justice in this country, and people they hear words that get them all excited and warm inside and start going nuts for it, but it doesn't even make any sense. But that's the point, that we analyze everything to see how much things make sense when people just want to feel warm and fuzzy.
I get you, and it seems like what you're doing is actually working, and it seems like what you're saying is like focus on media, whether it's paid or it's like earned media. So tell me, what are you doing in Liberty Links Media, and what exactly is Liberty Links Media Group?
Right. So Liberty Links we are a production company for the movement. So whether that is companies, organizations, law firms that stand for liberty, freedom, the principles, and not only do we do a ton of activism through being libertarian and through our own social media pages, but we also produce content for Young Americans for Liberty several liberty organizations we've done work for and candidates for liberty, and we're just continuing to expand it all the time. But the core principle behind it is, again, if you're going to, number one, if you're going to promote your brand at all, you should be working with an organization who not only understands the principles, but is vested and cares about the principles, that's on your side. Number two, work with somebody who knows what they're doing. And we've got 25 combined years experience doing what we do. And again, you know, we'd have more success if we could get together as a movement more, come together and understand that we're all better off when we're propping each other up and not trying to compete in an echo chamber, which unfortunately we do right now. We're just gonna, again, we're gonna lose, but I'm strong. I'm very confident that we can take it back. And the way we're going to do it is through organizations like Young Americans for Liberty and Operation Win a Door, not caring about the party, not caring about the letter next to their name, caring about the principles that they stand for, and making sure that we deliver it. If we're running in a blue district, like Matt Dubin was in Seattle, if we're running in a blue district, don't compromise your principles, but make sure that you run a campaign that is consistent with a blue district. The same goes for red, and the same goes for purple. When you're in a district that's 50-50 split down the middle, run a message that is anti-socialist, anti-MAG, just freedom, you know?
No, that makes a ton of sense. So you mentioned a few people that you worked with, like Austin Peterson and Matt Dubin. Who are some other people and organizations that you've worked with through Liberty Links Media?
Sure. Americans for Prosperity, Young Americans for Liberty, Generation Opportunity Institute, Larry Sharp for his gubernatorial campaign in New York, Dale Kearns in Pennsylvania, Mark Tippett in Texas for gubernatorial candidates in Texas, Matt Dubin, again, Seattle, Austin Peterson in Missouri. We have done work for Roads to Freedom Foundation, which does the Unconvention every year. Hopefully doing some content for Freedom Fest this year. We're just, you know, all over the place and continuing to, we just want to make, everybody needs to know that if you're going to be putting content out for your brand, make sure you do it right. Make sure you put that, and even if you're not using us, just figure out how to do it. Hire somebody, hire a consultant. It makes everybody look better. It elevates the brand of Liberty.
So what is the value of documentation have on activism and organizations and candidates like this? Like, what is the value of this this documentation, these videos, these films that you make on the individuals and organizations that you work with?
Well, listen, I mean, if you're not documenting it, did it ever really happen? I mean, that's the bottom line, right? That's what we say all the time. If you don't have something to take to people and say, look what we're doing, look at the success that we're having, to increase that. That's what I said before. We don't have the donor base right now that the authoritarians have. That's the bottom line. I mean, when it comes right down to it, it's how many people are putting into any particular ideology or brand, how many people are contributing to it. And we don't have that base that the socialists have. And the only way that we're going to increase that base is by showing people what we're doing and our path to victory. And the way that we show them our path to victory is by documenting. Period.
Awesome. Well, hey, Nick, I appreciate you hopping on with the Liberty Talks podcast with me for a quick interview. I know you have to get going, so thanks a lot for talking to us about what you do and what you think young people and liberty activists of all ages should be doing to better the movement.
Absolutely, man. Hey, and good luck with the podcast. I'm looking forward to seeing it grow, man.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Nick. You have a good night.
You too, Michael.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that was the show tonight. Real quick interview with Nicholas Veser. He didn't have a ton of time, but we will hopefully see Nick back on the show sometime soon. We got to hear about him, Liberty Links Media, what he's doing with them, what he's doing with all these other organizations. So big shout out to Nicholas Veser. Thanks for coming on to the Liberty Talks podcast. Y'all have a good night. Share out the podcast and make liberty win.